In this video we are going to talk about top 10 differences between Japan and South Korea. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel for future updates before starting this video. Korea was once a single nation, but it was split into North and South Korea at the end of World War II. The Korean peninsula is the territory shared by these two nations. Japan is an archipelago of islands that form a nation just off the coast of South Korea, separated by the Korea Strait. North and South Korea have a total land area of 84,972 square miles and a population of 70,944,029 people. North Korea has a population density of 480 people per square kilometer, while South Korea has a population density of 1,260 people per square kilometer. In contrast, Japan has a land area of 145,898 square kilometers, a population of 127,449,000 people, and a population density of 870 people per square kilometer. Korea was occupied by Japan in 1910 and remained under Japanese rule until 1945, when the war ended. Following Japan's defeat, Japanese forces in Korea surrendered to Soviet and American armies. This resulted in the Korean War, which split the nation in half between 1950 and 1953. The Korean peninsula is divided into two parts, North Korea and South Korea. The North was inspired by Soviet philosophy of communism, while the South was inspired by the American model of capitalist liberal democracy. Japanese roots can be traced back to 400 BC. Human bones and fossils dating back to the Paleolithic period have been found in Japan. Japan has emerged as a developing country with the world's second largest economy following World War II. The Japanese have very high living standards. Koreans speak Hangul, which is their own language. The alphabet is extremely simple to understand, and this is considered to be the most planned language in history. Japan's official language is Japanese. This language uses 3 scripts, all of which are derived from Chinese. Easy foods make up the majority of modern Korean cuisine. This is most likely due to prolonged periods of slavery and food scarcity. Soups, kimchi, pickled vegetables, a main rice or noodle dish, and a side dish make up a typical meal. The Japanese cuisine is a little more elaborate, and they also follow some eating and serving rituals. Sushi and tempura, for example, are world-famous Japanese dishes. Wrestling is common in both Korea and Japan, but each country has its own style of wrestling. The traditional national sport of Korea is wrestling, which is known as sirium. Sumo wrestling is a form of Japanese wrestling that we've all seen at least once. Japan and South Korea have traditionally shared a great deal of culture. In reality, there are numerous parallels between Japan and Korea. It occasionally perplexes Westerners. Both nations, however, have their own distinct cultures and histories. And when you look at them closely, you'll notice that they're very different. As a result, here are 10 significant differences between Japan and Korea. Number 1. Language. The language is the first thing that distinguishes their society. Japanese is based on the hiragana and katakana Japanese alphabets, as well as Chinese characters, kanji. Hangul is the Korean alphabet. Koreans used to use Chinese characters as well, but by the middle of the 1980s, they had totally abandoned them. The use of formal language and grammar, on the other hand, is also very close, and they share a lot of words. According to popular belief, Koreans find Japanese to be the easiest language to understand, and vice versa. Number 2. Cultural influence from others. After all, Japan is an island nation, while South Korea is the southernmost part of the Korean peninsula, which is part of the Asian continent. It sharply distinguishes the two cultures. China and the continent have had important cultural influences on Korea throughout history. Of course, China has influenced the cultures of many other nations. Japan is no different. But that was 1,000 years ago, and Japan had been isolated for much of its existence due to the samurai government's isolation policy. Instead, after the samurai shogunate was abolished in the 19th century, it became more closely associated with Western culture. As a result, Korean culture is much more similar to Chinese culture, while Japanese culture is comparable to Western culture. Number 3. Food. The above-mentioned geographical factor had an impact on how they ate. Korean cuisine, as you might know, is mainly spicy, and they eat it with a spoon, fork, and metal chopsticks. When they do a Korean barbecue, they use metal chopsticks to avoid being burned. Japanese people, on the other hand, adore seafood, as evidenced by sushi. They even feed with thin bamboo chopsticks, which make it easier to take bones out of fish. In general, Japanese cuisine is more complex and perplexing, whereas Korean cuisine is straightforward. Number 4. Confucianism. Confucianism is likely to have had the greatest influence on both countries as a result of Chinese culture. Though Confucianism is still practiced in some form in Japan, it is much more prevalent and significant in Korea. As a result, in Korean culture, family roles are somewhat different. When speaking to one's parents or grandparents, it is customary in Korea, particularly for men, to use honorific language, jeondaesmal. As a result, in Korea, it is a symbol of reverence for the elderly. Not only within the family, but also in Korean culture, where older people are often addressed with honorific speech. As a result, age is often the first question that Koreans ask each other, but in Japan, asking someone's age, particularly to a woman, is considered impolite. Number 5. Religion. In South Korea, Christianity is the most widely practiced religion. In Japan, on the other hand, only about 1% of the population claims to be Christian. Shinto is Japan's native religion, and more than half of the country's population practices Shinto in some form. In Shintoism, the Emperor of Japan has the highest authority, and Shinto ceremonies are used to celebrate most of Japan's holidays. Shinto is a major influence in anime and Japanese cartoons. Number 6. Internal and external collectivism. Both countries have a common society, but Japan's collective culture is external, while South Korea's is internal. It means that Japanese collectivism is more focused on society, while Korean collectivism is more focused on the family. Following social norms and maintaining social order is extremely necessary in Japan. It's crucial to consider how people perceive your actions and conduct. In Korea, however, it is more important to be a member of a family than it is to care what strangers think of you. It has much in common with Confucius culture, which places a high value on family loyalty. It is easier to make friends in Korea than in Japan if you are a foreigner. Although Japanese people are known for erecting walls and refusing to express their true feelings, Koreans are known for being polite and treating you as though you were a member of their family. When you do something wrong to someone in your tribe, however, you are no longer considered family, and they would say things like, "I thought you were one of us." It's clear that it's oversimplified, but it just represents culture. Number 7. Society. Japan is more calm and peaceful in terms of culture as a whole, whereas South Korea is more fun and entertaining. Personally, I think Japan is a nice place to visit if you want to see natural wonders and traditional architecture. South Korea, on the other hand, is more recommended for those who enjoy nightlife and shopping. Number 8. Work ethic. Work productivity and efficiency are high among Koreans. However, one issue in the Korean workplace is that people can be too aggressive and hasty at times. Order and prudence are valued more than productivity and competitiveness in the Japanese work ethic. As a result, it always contributes to overwork and unproductive meetings. Number 9. Patriotism. Korea is a peninsula in Far East Asia once again. Because of this, Korea's past is often regarded as one of the most tragic of all Asian countries. Korea's people have struggled to protect their country from invasions from its neighbors throughout history. This instills in them a deep sense of national pride. It doesn't inherently imply that Japanese citizens aren't patriotic. When it comes to politics and everything else, there are several different kinds of people. However, as compared to young people in South Korea, it is also true that the Japanese young generation is unconcerned. Number 10. Overall culture. Finally, I'll just make a list of the major differences. K-drama is common in Korea, but anime is popular in Japan. In terms of music, Korea has K-pop and Japan has idols. When it comes to art, Korean art is more elaborate and imaginative than Japanese art, which is more elegant and intricate. Kimono are traditional Japanese clothing, while hanbos are traditional Korean clothing. Taekwondo is the most well-known martial art in Korea, but karate is a Japanese martial art. These differences that I examine are only a small part of the overall picture. In fact, there are uncountable differences between two cultures. You will notice certain things if you travel to both countries. It is, however, a generalization of people and culture that does not generally extend to all individuals in the countries. What are your thoughts on our video? Do you want to add any other difference to our list? Please let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear from me again, please subscribe and turn on the notification before leaving. Thank you for watching us.